Okay, let's start. So probably more people will join in the meantime. Okay, so welcome everyone to this webinar about how to send data or plant floor data up to an ERP. In this case, we will talk about SAP, but this webinar applies to any ERP system. Okay. So first of all, as I said, thank you very much for joining this webinar. We know you have very tight schedules, so we really value your time here, and I think this will be very useful for you because we will explain some concepts and some architecture that I think could be very useful if you are thinking about communicating your ERP directly to your OT network or to your PLCs or any control system. Okay, so well, thank you very much for joining. In the meantime, you can write all your questions in the chat. So I'm here with my colleague Pedro. So he will be answering all your questions in the chat, and then at the end, at the end of the presentation, we will review all the questions, and we will try to, if one of them is not solved, we will try to solve them at the end. Okay, so yeah, thank you very much for joining, and let's start. All right, so during this webinar, we will present first an introduction of who we are. The company is called Vector Business, right? We are dedicated to industrial connectivity projects. Then we will talk about how to connect an ERP to OT, all right? How we do it, all right? We will explain, yeah, all the measures that we need to take into account in order to establish a communication between an ERP to communicate an ERP like SAP with our OT network or our OT infrastructure. Okay, so at the end, this is basically communicating OT with IT. So we will show how to link OT with IT. And then we will talk about our product vNode, okay? Because this type of architecture is solved using one of our solutions. So we will explain briefly what is vNode and how does it solve this type of architecture. And then we will go into the communication with the ERP, okay? So in the communication with the ERP, we use a protocol called REST API. So we will explain how it works for API, some differences with other protocols, and then the most important thing is that at the end we will do a demo. Okay, we will do a demo of how we can connect or how we can link our OT data, our data from our PLCs or DCS with the ERP that we have in our company. In this case, we will use the example of SAP, all right, of SAP. Okay. So briefly, the company I work for is called vNode. I work as an area manager. We are together with Pedro. We work in the industrial connectivity department. Okay, basically we have two product lines. We have Metricon and we have vNode. So we are dedicated to move data. Okay, we connect with PLCs, with DCSs, with RTUs, with any data source that you have in the OT network. Have the data available to the who exploit the data. It could be an SCADA, the typical case. It could be an ERP, like this webinar. It could be an MES system. It could be a cloud application. It could be a database, all right? So basically, we are dedicated to move data from one place to the other in a secure way. And then we have other two departments. We have a department for SCADA. We have an application called Advice, which is an SCADA. So we have a department for that, and then we have a department for trainings. Okay, so we provide trainings in different technologies, in OPC technology, trainings about cybersecurity, trainings about industrial connectivity protocols. So basically, this is our structure. The company is called Vector Business. We work in the connectivity department. And today, the webinar about connecting ERP with our OT network. In this webinar, we will use our software vNode to solve this architecture. Okay, so let's start. Let's start with the subject of the webinar. Okay, so ERP to OT. Okay, how we do it, and here we have the automation pyramid. Okay, where we have the different levels. All right, we have the OT network where we have our sensors, our PLCs, all our OT data sources, our PLCs, DCS. Then we have OT applications who can monitorize the data, right? Typically the SCADAs. And then we have the IT level, right? We could have a DM set, or and then we can have the IT level. In the IT, we have applications like the MES and or like this case, ERP. Okay, so the most important thing here to understand is that when we talk about the connection or the communication between an ERP with our OT network or with our industrial data, we are talking about the communication between an typical IT application, okay, because the ERP could be on-premise in the IT network or it could be in the cloud. It doesn't matter. But we are talking about the communication between an application, typically from IT, with data sources that are located in the OT network. So the most important thing here to understand is how we do it in a secure way, okay? How we can communicate the ERP in a secure way with our OT network, all right, with our OT infrastructure, with our DCS, with our PLCs. All right, there are many use cases of why we have to do that, okay? So we know in the past, the way this type of communication worked, it was, okay, so for example, we are producing some beverages in our OT network, okay? We need to know how many or how much is the production of those beverages. So because the ERP and the ERP system needs to know how much product we have available in stock, for example. So typically or previously, the OT department was sending the information of how much they were producing each day to the IT through an email or to a call or all right, in a manual way, okay? So with this type of architecture, we can have real-time communication between an ERP and the OT network, and avoiding all those delays in the communication that were done by email or by calls or whatever other method. Okay, so the only thing we need to take into account is the security. All right, so in the OT network, we have protocols like Modbus. Those are the protocols that are supported by our OT devices, like our PLCs or DCS. All these protocols they have in common. They were not created in terms of security. Okay, they are not thinking in terms of security. For example, Modbus is a protocol that doesn't support encryption. Okay, so here we are talking about mainly the difference between the OT technologies and the IT technologies, because the IT technologies are completely different, right? In IT, we use protocols like HTTP, SNMP, MQTT, REST API. Those are protocols that cover very, very well the security, all right? Because these are protocols that were created to move data across internet, right? And the security is mandatory if you have to move data across internet. All right, so basically when we talk about a communication between an ERP system and our OT network, we are talking about a communication between IT and OT, all right? We need to fill the gap, or we need to have a software or a tool in the middle that allows us to communicate in a secure way our OT infrastructure with, and this tool has to be compatible also with the protocols or with the technologies that IT. So when we talk about a communication between an ERP and our PLCs, we need to talk about a communication between OT and IT. Okay, so how we link OT with IT? Okay, how we link all these protocols that we have below, all our PLCs from Siemens, Rockwell, ABB, Honeywell, Allen Bradley. All right, we have all these data sources here on top. And
Fernando,
then,
Fernando, sorry,
yeah.
I think that you are not sharing. Can you check if you are sharing the presentation? Yeah, right?
I see it. I see it.
Oh, you cannot see it?
Yeah, because one of the attendees, he cannot see. But
can you see it?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
well, yeah. I'm sharing the screen number 3. How we link OT with IT?
Yeah.
It's okay?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's going to it's going to rejoin because probably it's an issue with.
Okay. Try to rejoin. All right. So we were talking about So at the end, the communication between an ERP and our OT network is a communication between IT and OT. So Mostly, like the process are controlled, as I say, by PLCs, DCS, microcontrollers, which are located in OT networks. And then we have the applications who exploit the data, right? Let me accept Kaun. Okay. So typically here we have the SCADAs, the ERPs, the cloud platform, the databases, all right? So all of them, they are located normally in IT networks, right? So as we explained in the previous slide, the OT devices and the IT networks, they support different technologies. We need a tool, we need a gateway in the middle that allows us to communicate these two separate or completely different worlds, all right? And normally this tool is called an IoT gateway, okay? It's a tool that allows us to connect with OT and then be compatible with the IT technologies. And in this case, we will our IoT gateway called vNode. Okay, so using vNode, we will explain what is vNode. We will make the demo, configuring the communication between our OT network and the communication in this case, and the purpose of this webinar with SAP. Okay, but this could apply to any ERP system. Right. So what is vNode? vNode is a software. It's a software that is a modular software that basically once you install the software, you have many modules available inside. So it has the data collection. Here we can connect with OPC DA, with OPC UA, with Modbus, with MQTT, with Siemens PLCs, Allen Bradley PLCs, with vNodes networks, and so on. So here we have all the data sources that we have in OT. So we could say that the data collection modules allows us to read data from OT. Then the software has also some data management modules, right? Not the purpose of this webinar, but we can log data, we can send alarms, we can visualize data. We have several modules for data management. If you want to perform some calculations before sending the data to an ERP, you can also do it with the data management modules. And then it supports many technologies for the data delivery, all right? So we can deliver the data over OPC UA, we can deliver the data over Modbus, over MQTT, we can store data into SQL databases, and we can deliver data over REST, all right? We will talk a lot about this protocol because this is the protocol that we use to communicate with SAP, all right? And this is the protocol that we will use in the demo. So vNode is an IoT gateway that has many different modules or functionalities. So depending on your architecture, if you have Siemens, Allen Bradley, ABB, Honeywell, Rockwell, if you have devices from all different vendors, you select the modules that you need for the data acquisition. And then if you want to make a communication with, in this case, with an ERP, you select the module of data delivery of REST API. Okay, this is the example. Okay, there are other ways or other protocols to connect with ERPs, but normally we use this protocol. All right, so we were talking about the gap between OT and IT. So the way to link OT with IT is through an IoT gateway like vNode. Okay, it's a software that supports all the technologies from OT and the technologies of IT. Okay, perfect. Okay, so how we do it? All right, we know that in a real factory we have the ERP system and the PLCs. They are not located in the same network, right? We have normally the ERP in the IT network. All right, this could have as many levels as you want because you could have like probably a DM set in the middle also, and normally the ERP is located in the business network, or it could be in the cloud. And then you have in the lowest level, you have all your devices or your PLCs. So using software like vNode, using the vNode as an IoT gateway, we can perform this communication, all right? We can select or we can install a vNode in our OT network. The vNode is in charge of collecting the data from all our OT data sources. It doesn't matter the brand or the protocol that specific OT data source supports, and is the one who delivers the data in a secure way to the vNode on top, all right, to the vNode in the other network. Okay, we know that also this software can solve the communication with a local SCADA, then in another network can solve the communication with an SQL. But in this case, the purpose is to connect this ERP on top with the PLCs. So with vNode supports something that basically we can create networks of vNodes. So what we do is that we put a vNode in each level of the network. Each vNode passes information to the other vNode, and then until the vNode that is located in the same level of the ERP. All right, so why we do that? Because vNode supports a functionality that is called reverse connection. Basically, you can solve this communication without opening inbound ports in these firewalls, all right? There is no need to open inbound ports in these firewalls. So creating networks of vNode, we move data to the level 4 where the ERP system is located without opening inbound ports in the OT firewalls. And then this vNode on top is the one in charge of the connection with the ERP. Okay, and this is what we are going to show you later, how we connect this vNode in the IT network with the ERP. Okay, but this vNode has the information that has been passed away from the other vNodes that the data is originally coming from OT. Okay, so this is basically like a real architecture. We don't connect directly the ERP to the PLCs. What we do, if we do it right and we take into account all the cybersecurity threats, we need to put an IoT gateway in each network level. We need to consider that we shouldn't be opening inbound ports in the firewall from the OT networks, and then moving the data in a secure way to the vNode on top. We can have a communication, and it could be bidirectional with the ERP. Okay, so we will focus on this, on how we connect this ERP, in this case SAP, with the vNode in the same level. All right. Perfect. Okay, so we mentioned that the communication normally that we do with the ERPs, and in this case specifically with SAP, we do it using REST API, which is not specifically a protocol, all right? We can say that it's an architectural style used in web service development, all right? It's a way of communication that is client to server, all right? So you have REST API clients and REST API servers. So basically the clients, they make HTTP requests to the server, all right? In this petition, there are different methods. You can support like the get if you want to read data, the put if you want to update data, delete if you want to remove data. All right, in that HTTP request, the client passes the request to the REST API server. There is a process of authentication. All right, we won't go into details in this webinar, but there is an authentication process where you can do it based on user and a password, or you can do it exchanging tokens, okay? But basically, there is an authentication process. The REST API server processes the request and then looks for the data in their own database, all right? They have the REST API server should be the interface with the data, and if it has the data available, it sends a response, which is normally in JSON format, all right? It sends the response with the, okay, here's the data that you are requesting, all right? So it's very important to understand is that REST API, in REST API, the content of the message, which is called the payload, could be anything, all right? Could be the format is not defined. It's not like OPC UA, all right? We will see in the next slide the differences with other protocols, but the format could be anything. So the client and the server, they should agree on the format, okay? Here we are talking about either real-time data or historical data, but the content on the message should be agreed between the client and the server, okay? So it's good to have like this chart is very interesting because gives us like a comparison with other protocols like OPC UA. You know, in OPC UA, the format of the message is always the same, all right? The format is always the name of the tag, the value, the quality, the timestamp. You know, this is defined by the OPC Foundation. In REST, the content on the message could be anything. That's why we need to agree on the client and the server, okay? So the REST API client sends the petition, the HTTP request to the REST API server, and it does it each time, right? It's a synchronous communication. So every time we need to ask for the data, we need to create a request. It's a synchronous communication. OPC UA, for example, is a subscription, all right? You don't ask for the data each time. You just create a subscription. You just subscribe to the data and say that you want the data every 5 seconds. And it's a subscription that is being done between the client and the server. MQTT, for example, is also continuous, all right? It's not a synchronous communication. All right, so this chart is very useful just to compare. Sometimes we are being asked, okay, Fernando, which protocol should we use to communicate with the ERP? Normally, we use REST. We know from our experience is the easiest way to do it, at least to connect to it, to communicate with SAP. But also it can be done through OPC UA or MQTT because SAP has some models to communicate over either OPC UA or MQTT. It's a client and server architecture. The firewall needs to be open from the client to the server. That's why we put the vNode in the same network level with where we have the SAP, because otherwise, as this is a client and server architecture, if you have the REST API server in OT, you need to open inbound ports in the firewall. Okay, so in case of REST API, the firewall or the port is open from the client to the server. That's why we recommend to have the IoT gateway, like in this case vNode, in the same network level where you have the ERP. Okay, so yeah, this is just a brief introduction to REST because we will make a demo using this protocol. I think the easiest way to understand this is to see the software running. Okay, so here my colleague Pedro will help me with this demo. All right, so basically we have the software installed to connect with OT data. All right, we have some OT data available, and we will show you how we can deliver this data or how we can connect with an ERP like SAP. All right, so I'll change to this one, Pedro. I'll switch to you if you want.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Thank you, Fernando. Thanks for the explanation. Okay, so well, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Now we are in the... Can you see my screen? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, well, thanks everyone who joined this webinar, okay? So, well, the architecture or the demo that we are going to see in this webinar, well, is a basic architecture. We are assuming that we already have the information or the data in a vNode located in the IT network, okay? This vNode will have information from different machines or different production line. We are considering like 3 different data sources. We are going to have information from an OPC DA server from Matricon. Then we are going to have information. We are going to connect to a Modbus PLC. This is a simulated Modbus device, okay, that is running locally in my computer. And then we are going to have also an OPC UA server for simulation from the company Unify Automation, okay? So this is just to simply show you how we can collect or can we have inside vNode in the unique or in the same address space information from 3 different data sources. And then in this vNode, we are going to deploy a REST API server inside this vNode. And then we are going to use an application similar to SAP. We have here the Postman, okay? We already have inside Postman all the functions that are supported by the vNode REST API server. And we are going just to show you how we can make a GET to request information to the REST API server, and we can request information from any of the data sources that we have or that are coming from the OT network. And then we are going to make a post to make or to write a value to the device. usually, well, in the projects that we work, the customers, in most of the cases, they want to send recipe numbers to the devices in the control network. This is a common use case for this kind of communication. So we are going to show you how to do this, okay? So here I have in my local computer, I already have a vNode running, okay? I am going to log in this vNode. Probably most of you already know the web user interface of vNode, okay? So I am going to go here. I am going to show you here in System and Config. And if I go to Modules, I have the 3 modules for the 3 different data sources, the Modbus, the OPC DA from Matricon, and the OPC UA from Unified Automation. And then I have a module that is the REST API server, okay? So if I go here to config tags, I already have an structure of tags created inside this vNode, okay? I have like 3 different lines, the line 1, the line 2, and the line 3, okay? And each of these lines have information from the 3 different devices, okay? So just to show you very quickly, for example, for this tag of OPCDA, this is the definition of the tags, and here I have the source of the tags. This tag pressure is linked to the OPCDA client, and I am reading this tag from the OPCDA server. This is the path of the tag inside the OPCDA server. And the same for Modbus. In the case of Modbus, the data source is the Modbus client. I am reading this holding register. And for OPC UA, well, the same, but I need to put here the syntax to be able to read the data from the OPC UA data source, okay? So now if I go to real time and I click here in the root folder, I already have all this information in my vNode. Remember that this vNode is the vNode that we have in the IT network. I have the information from the line 1, the line 2, and the line 3. Okay. So then I'm going to show you if I go here to system config, and now I get inside the REST API server. Okay. This server support HTTP connection and also HTTPS, okay? And I am using for the HTTP connection the port 3003, and for the secure HTTP the 3443, okay? We can modify, this is a custom port, okay? By default, these are the value, but we can change it based on the needs of our project, okay? Then the other very important step is here inside the REST API server, we can give access. We can create access for the outside clients that are going to connect, okay? So the authentication can be based on roles that we already have inside vNode, and can be also, the authentication can be also be based on tokens. Okay, so right now I am doing this by user and password. I add the administrator group, okay, and give to the administrator all the permissions, okay, and I am giving access to all the information that I have inside this vNode. That right now are these 12 tags, okay. Okay, perfect. So now, if I go back, just to show you, I have here, this is the Modbus device. And if I go here to real time, you can see how these 4 tags that I am reading from the line 2 are these 4 values, or these 4 holding registers, okay? So now I am going to open the Postman, okay? As I explained you before, I already have a Postman collection with all the functions that are supported by the vNode REST API server, okay? So here in the basic parameters, I already configured like the port. This Postman, imagine that is like a REST API client. So I configured the port for the HTTP connection. And also it's very important the IP address. Now, as the client is running locally in the same computer where I have the server, it's localhost, and that's it, okay? And then the path, I am associating to this path this tag of my vNode. That if we check, for example, if we go back to the vNode, this is going to be, for example, the line 3, and I am reading this level, that the value is 255, okay? So now if I open, I am going to make this connection using HTTP to do it easily, okay? And now I am going to just to make a get to read that tag, okay? So I go here. Here on top, we are going to find like the function, okay? And here you will find like all the syntax for this request, okay? So I have here the IP address is localhost, the port is 3003, and the path is going to be the path that I already set for this value, okay? Now, if I I send this request, here you are going to find like I receive a status 200, okay? That is, I receive a good response from the server, and this is the JSON that I am getting from the REST server. As you can see here in the data, we are going to find the value, okay? It's 2055. The quality 192 is good quality, and the timestamp is in epoch format, okay? For example, if right now I'm going, for example, to read maybe from this line, the second line, I'm going to read the speed of the engine that I have in this second line that is controlled by a Modbus device. So now if I copy this path tag here, and I go here to the path, I am going to change this value, okay? And I save it. Now, if I go here again to this function, now I am linking this to the Modbus to the speed tags, and if I send this request, I am as you can see here in the JSON. Now I am receiving this new JSON, and the value is 30. That is the value that I have in this in this tag. And if we check in our data source, that is the device, the PLC, you will find the 30 here, okay? As of now, I just show you how to, from the Postman, or in this case, from the SAP, how to retrieve data from the REST API server. I am using this Postman client to connect and to request data to the servers. Now we are going to do like the opposite, is to send information from the Postman to the REST API server, okay? So to do that inside here, inside the post functions, okay, I have this option is to make a tag right, okay? So if I click here, the IP address and the port are going to be the same. This is the URL of this function, okay? And then in the path, I need to define here what tag. This is like the body of the request. What tag are we going to write? In this case, for example, let's write the order number for the line 2. Okay, I'm going to copy this path tag. I'm going to put this information here. And then I am going, for example, to send the order number, I don't know, 1005, for example. That's something different to this one. I am going to send this post. It's already sent. And if I go back to vNode, you are going to see here that right now the order number is the 1005. And if I check my device, the Modbus device, the 1005 is in this holding register. That probably is the 40,000, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. We did this with real-time information, but keep in mind that also this REST API server of vNode can also share historical information. If we have the historian inside vNode, and you need to request from SAP or any other ERP application historical information that is historized in that vNode, we can also request historical data. Okay. So yeah, well, more or less, this is what we want to show you, how easy it is to share industrial data to ERP system using the REST API protocol. Okay.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Pedro. Yeah. Thank you very much for the demo. One important thing is that with vNode you can have trial licenses, right? So this type of communication can be tested with a trial license. You don't need to software and then see if you can establish the communication with your ERP. Actually, Pedro, if you go to the next slide, please.
Yeah.
Here, if you scan the QR, you can book a session with us, right? So basically, you can get a 30 days trial license of this product, and you can book a session with us where you can share if you want your architecture, and we can see which is the best way to establish the connection between your OT devices and your ERP. And we can help you actually with a proof of concept. So we can help you providing a trial license and help you configuring this, basically what Pedro did, but with real information, in your case, from your devices. Okay. All right. Do you have any questions? All right. So some of them has been written in the chat and they were solved. But you can write them if you want, if you have more. But I will just review the ones we have. So I heard vNode is located at the same network with the IT infrastructure, right? Well, it could be. So as we explained, normally we put one vNode in OT, and then depending on how many network levels you have, then you place a vNode in IT. So depending on your architecture, you have several options. You can put one vNode in each network level, and then have one vNode in local in the same network where you have the ERP, in order to support what we mentioned about the reverse connection, that you don't need to open inbound ports in the firewall if you place one IoT gateway or one vNode in each network level. Jayesh was asking us how many vNode modules we will need for REST API at field level and client at SAP level. Any other module from vNode to be used? Well, normally we need at least two modules. One for the data acquisition. So depending on from where you need to read data, if you need to read data from OPC Classic, OPC UA, Modbus, okay, you could use only one module or more than one, depending on your data sources, or at least one module for data acquisition, and then another module for data delivery. So with the SAP, we use the REST API module. So at least you will need two modules. Okay, so something that Jayesh also mentioned, that if we can get the recording, we will send you the recording after 1, I think, or 2 days. We will send you the link with the recording. No problems. Okay. No more questions. No more questions in the chat. Okay, Pedro, can you go to the next one where we have our contact details? Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. So here you have our contact details. So don't hesitate to book a session with us. We can do a Teams meeting explaining further. Right, we had only 30 minutes to explain what could be a complex project. So book a session with us, and we can organize a Teams meeting to talk about your architecture or your requirements, and also we can provide a presentation of vNode. It's a product that has so many different models and functionalities. This is only 2 or 3 models that the software has, and it has more than 50. So if you are also interested in learning more about vNode, just send us, me or Pedro, an email, and we can organize a session. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Pedro, for organizing the demo, and thank you everyone for joining. We will send you the recording.
Thank you. Bye-bye.